Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the tabernacle of David, though for elect, scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And I'm just doing a response into the video put up by the elder brother from the Baltimore camp, Karat Zaba. And this is the name of the video, the title of the video. A brother converted from Genesis Israelites comment the GMS curse is real. And it's like, you know, what do you mean by that? Now, the main guy, Hakah, you know, he was removed from the body, you know, over a decade ago. And really, he wasn't even a part of Great Millstone. He just learned up under Great Millstone. You know, he was coming around, you know, but he was coming up under Alazar, who was once upon a time a member of Great Millstone. But you know, his spirit wasn't right. You know, he was a rebellious child, and you know, he got put outside. He got, you know, put away from the house. All right, so what these guys got going now, I don't know what that have to do with us, but you know, when we see the rebellion and you know, the behavior, the you know, them going off and you know, switching up the doctrine and you know, teaching false doctrine. You know, that's part of our responsibility is to, you know, correct any errors that we witness. The scriptures say to rebuke before all that others may fear. So that's basically what we do. Rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. All right. But anyway, I'm gonna let this play because they're going back and forth with it sound like a caller who they was I guess discussing about the woman of Canaan, which when you read the gospel in Mark, you know, she's also called a Syro-phoenician woman. You know, because that's you know, when you go back to that landmass, that was the region of Canaanites. You know, Tyre and Zidon, which is up north on the coast, the northern coast, you know, right before you hit Syria. You know, you had a settlement of Canaanites, Phoenicians, if you will. Okay, but we know that whole region was all colonized by the Greeks. Right, so when the known world got Hellenized, you know, people in that region, whether they were Israelites or not, you know, they all spoke the language of Greek and kept the Greek custom, the Greek fashion. So the Lord basically had an encounter with her, and the disciples happened to be with him. So we're gonna you know, play the video because they go into it, and this is supposed to be proof that heathens can make it now. You know, when years ago they didn't teach it like that. That's how we know that these dudes, you know, they went for the bag. You know, the scriptures tell you that, you know, when you take a gift, it'll blind you and make you twist the truth, and that's basically what they're doing. So anyway, let's listen to it.
And his disciples came and besought him, saying, "Send her away, for she cried out for us." Then why did the disciples say, "Man, get this woman away from us"?
Because they don't know who she is.
But it says there's a woman of Canaan. Matthew wrote this. He knows it's a woman of Canaan.
Yeah, and the next verse answers it. So in the next verse, everyone thinks that he's answering the woman, but he's actually answering his disciples when he says, "But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel."
How did they
Now,
not know
if that's
she-
true, and she's not an Israelite, that makes Christ a liar.
No, it doesn't, brother. So let's break this down. First question: How did all 12 disciples not know she's an Israelite?
Pardon?
How did they not know she's an Israelite?
Because she comes from the land of Canaan.
Okay, but if she's an Israelite, was she wearing fringes?
Is she wearing fringes?
See, and I've been caught on to the tactics of Hassad. All right, he tries to throw questions out there that seem like they're intelligent questions to try to trip you up, and you gotta not fall for it, and that's why the scriptures tell you to study the answer. But it's a foolish. It appears like it's an intelligent question, but if you know the scriptures, you could tell that really this guy is being foolish. The scriptures doesn't describe, what she was wearing, but all the context clues that you can take from that encounter is based on the fact that she came up in a region where it was a Canaanite inheritance, right? It was the land of where the Canaanites dwelt, but she was also known as a Greek. When you read the Gospel of Mark, let's go to it. Let's go to Mark 7. This is Mark 7:25. It says, "For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell at his feet." Now, mind you, let me go up a verse. Mark 7:24 says, "And from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Zidon." All right, what people were known to dwell in those cities, where there was actually trade and commerce. It was port cities on the coast. It was Canaanites, Tyre and Sidon. It says, "And entered into an house, and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syro-phoenician by nation," right? Meaning she dwelt in that particular region. But it also says that she was a Greek. Now, you can't be a Canaanite and a Greek at the same time, all right, ethnically. So obviously it's describing her geographical setting and the culture that she came up under. All right. Obviously, she took on the Greek culture. She lived like a Greek, but she dwelt in a region of the Canaanites. But guess what? That still don't mean that she was a actual heathen. This was very well an Israelite woman who lived up in that region, but who was under the influence of the Hellenist or the Hellenin. All right? Because the spirit was still on her to seek after the Lord. All right? And guess what? It was the Lord that said, "My sheep hear my voice." So this woman, she took notice that this was the Lord. So that by default would really tell you that this woman had to have been an Israelite. All right, but no, she wouldn't have had on fringes if she grew up a Greek culturally and living up in Tyre Zidon. All right. It says, "And she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. But Yahushua said unto her, Let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it unto the dogs." And this is what the Lord told his disciples, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go to Matthew 7. It is Matthew 7, and it's dealing with judging people, right? Matthew 7 and 6, it says, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast you your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you." And of course, this is metaphoric expression describing people who would not be worthy. And these were people that would be described as, morally and mentally impure. They wouldn't treat sacred things as holy, especially if you grew up in under a heathenistic culture. Because heathens, by default, their cultural practices are very impure. So if you indulged in that lifestyle, you wouldn't be allowed to be partakers of anything holy. You wouldn't even be allowed in the temple. All right. And we know Jake, especially during the Hellenization, Jake turned into straight up heathens. They were, matter of fact, let's go to the Maccabees. Because the clue is that she was a Greek. So that means that, she would have been considered a unclean person, even though she was an Israelite. First Maccabees 1. Yeah, First Maccabees 1, and starting at verse 11, and it says, "In those days went out there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. And you had a lot of Judah that were dispersed, throughout the known world. All right. So they were in all these areas, and all these areas were filled with the influence of the Hellenin. Then that was going to make them impure. Okay. And somebody that's impudent, shameless. So that the women under that influence, they were going to be shameless, audacious. The scriptures tell you in Sirach, the 25th or 26th chapter, that a shameless woman shall be counted as a dog. So the Lord was basically, when he made that statement concerning her, he was checking her temperature. Is this woman a shameless woman? Because she come from an area where our people are they're spiritually dead up there, Or is this woman one of the ones? So when the Lord made that statement, he was checking her temperature. Was she gonna show that she's humble and have faith? Like the woman that it was several people, all right, that they were in need of healing, and they humbled themselves, and then the Lord, pretty much healed them, because their faith was what made them whole. So it says, "And she answered and said unto him, Yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs." And the fact that she said that, that pretty much sealed it for the Lord. She gave the correct answer. So this woman, she was actually humble, And this was the same thing that he stated in that parable of Lazarus the rich man, if you was ever paying attention. All right. Lazarus was the beggar who was desiring the crumbs that fell from the master's table. All right, which was the rich man. So continuing on, it says, and he said unto her, for this saying, go thy way, the devil was going out of thy daughter. And when she was come to her house, she found the devil gone out and her daughter laid upon the bed. So, yeah, man, this had to have been an Israelite woman. So going into Matthew's account, in Matthew 15:22, it says, and behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. So she identified him as the son of David. How would she have known that? Because the Spirit was on her, and she identified the Lord. This was an Israelite woman. It says, my daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I have not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. When he answered and said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to dogs. And like I said, you know, that dog was just a metaphoric expression, you know, to describe individuals who were, you know, mentally impure. All right, that would be shameless. All right, and the scriptures tell you that. You know, shameless behavior, you know, of the wicked. When you go to Romans, the first chapter, it says that the Lord had gave them over to a reprobate mind to do the things that were not convenient. All right, because they did not like to retain knowledge of the Most High in their minds, and their foolish hearts were darkened. That's what happens to the heathen when you worshiping idols, when you're commemorating them doing, you know, vile acts, detestable, abominable acts. You become impure. But the Lord was testing to see what type of woman this was. Because I'm not going to give you nothing that's sacred and holy if you're going to use it to defile it. All right. And she said, truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from the master's table. Then Yahushua answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. So it was her faith. That faith was the identifier that she was an Israelite. Okay? And we know that faith is a gift that's given to the children of Israel. So we'll go back.
Don't Israelites wear fringes?
Yes.
Okay, so wouldn't she have been wearing?
Yeah, but the Greeks, the Greek Israelites, they wasn't wearing fringes. Just like they also wasn't allowed to be circumcised. So this could have been a dude, and you could have asked, well, if he's an Israelite, was he circumcised? Well, that was a whole controversial matter because Israelites were uncircumcised if they grew up in a household that was Greek. Come on, man.
Fringes.
Because she's a lost sheep. That's the whole point.
I knew you was going to say that. So I can ask him something?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Brother, who is the children that, in Mark's account, it says he came to feed the children first? Who's that? Is the children all 12?
Is the children all 12?
All 12 tribes.
I'll have to read the verse for context.
Okay. Mark chapter 7, and let's go to verse 26. Okay, well, let's just read it. It says, the woman was a Greek, a Syro-phoenician by nation. It doesn't say she's an Israelite for the record, but it says, and she besought him that he would cast forth.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to you.
Yeah, so, these guys, they don't have it, man. They once had a bit of it, but whatever they had, they clearly lost. And this is what happens. This is the price you pay when you sell out. All right, no oil. Okay. And they're willing to butcher all these scriptures up just to save the heathen. And that's mainly because these dudes, they went after that reward. And now this dude, Akkad, chilling in his his wagon, and that dude have no shame whatsoever. So the Lord's gonna deal with these dudes, man. Straight like that. He gonna deal with them. But that's pretty much my response, dealing with this particular subject. We've covered this before, but to any of you brothers that may be new and still learning, you could go between both books, the book of Matthew, the 15th chapter, and Mark, the 7th chapter. It gives you the same account. It's just worded different. But just because, she was a woman of Canaan, that doesn't mean that she was an actual Canaanite woman. She was an Israelite who happened to be dwelling up there in that land. Because Tyre and Zidon, there were Israelites up there, but those were known to be Canaanite lands. All right. But this was an Israelite woman who lived geographically in that region, but she was under the influence of the Greeks. Just like you had Greeks that came down to that one Passover to seek the Lord. How would they have known to come down to Jerusalem to meet the Lord when they had their Passat? Coming from wherever they were coming from. Because in the law, 3 times out of the year, the males had to come to Jerusalem. All right, for worship. But those Greeks had to have been Israelites. And then, of course, even those Jews who were wondering about what the Lord was doing, they said, is he going to go to the dispersed among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? So they even knew. Because our people were dispersed. They were all over. It wasn't all just in Judea. They were all over, man. Some of them knew that they were Israelites and kept the Hebrew customs. And then there were ones that they came up under the Hellenist culture. All right. So they spoke Greek. They wasn't circumcised. They probably didn't have a beard on their face. The women were more than likely shameless. They didn't carry themselves like the women in the Holy Land. So I'm sure, they were different. So they was able to identify them. Okay. And the disciples at the time, they like, hey, get this woman away. But they didn't understand. The Lord, he came to heal. He came for the lost. These were sheep. That woman was still of the sheep. She was just lost. But she found her way, because she encountered the Lord and was made whole, and she had faith. All right. So anyway, I'm going to end on that. I'm going to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Shai. And to the next one, Shalom.